And welcome back to the Yogi Roth Show, Fired Up. It is the first episode of 2019.
Yes.
I know we all have put out our words, our themes, our New Year's resolutions. And for me, what has become now tradition is the first episode of a new year for the second year in a row is a good friend, Jon Gordon. Thanks for coming, brother.
It's great to be with you, Yogi. I'm fired up that we get to do this every new year now. It's awesome. I look forward to it.
Yeah, me too. So last year, we jumped in the ocean together, and it was you, myself, a couple of our friends, and we set our word and our intention. This year, I was at the Rose Bowl, so I didn't get to jump in the ocean with you, but I'm assuming you did. Take me through your new year, man.
I jumped in with Thomas Williams, who played at USC.
Love him.
Great guy. I said, listen, I'm going to go in around 1, 2 o'clock. If that's too late for you, I understand. He said, no. We did it last year, and I had the best year. Like, so much happened this year. I'm not going to lose that tradition. I'm going to keep that going. You do what works, and you keep doing what works. So we did it again. We were fired up. We jumped in. It was cold. It was, because it's been really cold in California.
Oh, yeah.
So the water was icy cold. Jumped in, came out, though, refreshed, ready to create a great year. But you know what's funny? There's so much hope and optimism around December 28th, December 29th, the 31st. And as you move to New Year, now that we're doing this a few days past New Year's, this is where the stuff starts to hit. The obstacles come your way. The adversity, real life starts to happen as we move into the new year. And I realized that you have to turn your hopes into habits. That's what came to me. Your hopes from December 31st has to turn into a habit on January 5th, 7th, or 8th as you move forward in your life.
Wow. All right. So, Jon, internationally best-selling author, 16 books now, right? Love your books, and the links will all be in the show notes. So how do you do that in your eyes if you were going to talk one-to-one or one-to-many about turning your hopes into habits? Because everybody listening has a bunch of hopes that they geared up for and unleashed to the public a couple days ago.
I think it starts with a word, which we're talking about now. I think it goes to, what will your word be for the year? What intention do you want to create with that word? What do you want to create? What do you want to hope for? What do you want to believe in? What do you want to do? What change do you want to make? What's holding you back, perhaps? What do you want to focus on? And so your word should drive you. It should give you meaning and mission and passion and purpose for the year. And so you show up every day with that word, and hopefully that word transforms that hope into a habit. So hopefully your habits come from that word. My word this year is expand. So I know I want to expand in so many ways. I want to expand in knowledge. I want to expand in love. I want to expand my influence to make a greater impact. Well, okay, if that's part of what I want to do, how do I do that? Now, when we're talking about a word, it's not like I chose this word. I was walking saying, what's my word? And then it came. The word always comes. I don't choose it. And it's never about like, I want to grow my business. I want to do this. A lot of times I want to pick a word that I want. I wanted Meraki a few years ago. And that was not the word that was meant for me. I wanted to be that word, but it wasn't. Meraki means to do something with love, with creativity, with soul, to leave a piece of yourself in your work, to leave something behind. That's Meraki, but it wound up being the word connected. And so last year was connected. So the word is not what I choose. It's what I believe is chosen for me to live my best life. And so for me, I know that it's expand. Oh, here's a big part. Expand the capacity to do it all. Because last summer, I got real sick. I was burnt out. I couldn't even I was like a zombie after giving so many talks from January to May. I was only home like 10 days. I gave so many talks that I was just, my adrenals were shot. I went to a doctor. He's like, your adrenals are shot. And I was like a zombie for a few months over the summer. So this year with Expand, I want to expand my capacity to be able to handle it all and do more. And not think less, but actually be more.
Yeah. Wow. All right. So there's a lot that comes from that. Just talking about capacity, it was a couple weeks ago. We just finished calling games. Did 14 straight weeks or whatever it was. And I called Kevin Carroll, our mutual friend. Love Kevin. And he goes, how you doing? And I said, I'm exhausted and depleted. And he goes, yo, man, you ain't allowed to be like that. You could be exhausted, but you can't be depleted. You know, your family, your life, your relationships are expanding. Like, you can't be a zero or negative energy-wise when you come home. And he's like, let's assess what happened this year. Why were you depleted? And I looked back on it the last few days, and for me, it was, I just poured everything into it and didn't always replenish. So whether it was sleep, juice, nutrition, not enough yoga. Like, okay, should I study an extra 90 minutes of film or take a 45-minute workout and watch 45 minutes of film? Like those little things. So for you, I'm curious, as you were searching and waiting for the word to come to you, did you think about that of like, oh, why was I exhausted last year? And what do you plan to put in place as we're into January to make sure that doesn't happen again?
I thought about that over the summer in terms of why I was like that. I talked to some performance coaches. One was a former New York Yankees performer coach, Dana Caviglia. And Dana basically just said, you have to see yourself as an athlete. And you have to get back to that where you have to recharge and recover. And you're not recovering. He goes, what do you do after a talk? I'm like, well, I get in the car, go to the airport. Wait,
ice bath.
Yeah, stress, deal with the planes, get on my phone, start doing work, get on calls. You're always going. He goes, no, when you're done with the talk, he goes, lay on the floor for 10, 15 minutes. Just lay flat on the floor, breathe, do some deep breathing, recharge, recover. So after that, I'm feeling so much better now. My health's recovered. I've focused a lot on it. I've gone to acupuncturist. I've actually doing more breathing, more praying, more recharging. So I've already dealt with the capacity part. But even now, as we move, into this year, I know that with the expand, it's going to be more than what I can do. To expand, I need to, for me, it's to pray and to just seek God and ask God's help as I move forward, because the God that expands the universe, I believe, could expand little old me.
Yeah, that's great. Another Kevinism is your potential is boundless and endless.
Man,
do you think that I'm on this mission where trying to figure out the athletic mind for athletes, it gets closed. I think a lot of times after your career. So you can be 10 years old and your hand's behind the line and you finish through the line, as a simple example. You could be 15, you show up early to the gym and you stay late. You could be 21, lucky enough to play in college, and it's extra film study when nobody's watching. You're doing the lonely work. And then you get to professional career and you don't practice your presentation. You don't recharge your body. You don't do the quote unquote ice bath like you did to get your legs back when you were an athlete. Like, why do you think that is? Because you're talking to corporate people all the time that aren't recharging, aren't expanding, but their businesses are growing, the pressure is mounting, the responsibilities are endless. And I'm curious your talk on that, because you're in those environments all the time and you are the catalyst to giving people some answers and some tools to utilize in their life.
That's such a great question. We don't focus on what matters, we focus on what is urgent. I think so. We're allowing the busyness and stress of life and focusing on all these little things that really, in many ways, don't matter, instead of what really does matter. So I think we get caught up in the clutter of doing the work of distractions.
Yeah.
Man, distractions are the enemy of greatness. And if you think of those distractions, how they distract you from what matters most. And I think we have to see ourselves. I think it's really about a perspective and what we see and how we see ourselves and who we are. And I think if we see ourselves as still an athlete, as someone or a performer, let's just say, even if you're a singer, right? We're talking about athletics, but if you're a singer, that singer is always massaging their voice, taking care of that voice. That actor is always working on their craft. They don't just show up and do the scene. They've worked on their craft. So I think we have to see our professions as crafts that we continue to build. Working with a lot of teachers like I do in education, I speak to a lot of educators. I always tell them the teacher of the year is a craftsman or a craftswoman that is focused on their craft of teaching. And in the teacher lounge, they're talking about the lessons, how they get better, how they can improve. The average teacher or the poor teacher is complaining about the students, complaining about the school. So there's a different mindset in how they approach their profession. I wrote about this in The Carpenter, and being a craftsman or a craftswoman. And I love that. I know you're a craftsman. What's your word, by the way, for the year?
Mine's create.
Why'd you pick that?
Well, same like you, and I want to hear how it comes to you, and I'll share how it came to me. I was, I put a lot of work into this. This is the 7th year I've done this. Mike Gervais, our mutual friend, you've been on his show a bunch, and he's been on yours. We were in the ocean 7 years ago, and he's like, what do you think your theme of the year is going to be? And we both agreed, like, let's make it the year of go. Let's just go and say yes to everything and see what happens. And we both fell on our floor, depleted, exhausted at the end of that year, and went for it. And then ever since then, we've chosen our own words and we'll share them with each other, much like you and I do. And for me, I was curious what it would be. And every year it's built on, the word has built on one another. And for me this year, I was in a yoga class and I was just doing one of those stretches, sweating like crazy. And I said, yeah, I think I need to create more, and I need to create. I'm going to create a family, deeper love with Amy and our squad, and I'm going to create really unique content that I think is meaningful. And I've done it long enough now. In my 10th year, just finished broadcasting. I've been in LA for 14 years now, which is a long, that's a life, that's a career, which is crazy for me to say. Usually I've always been the young guy, the up and coming guy. And now I've kind of been here, and my feet are firmly planted on the ground, and I feel great about that. So I'm going to go create, because I know how to write. I know how to produce. I know how to cultivate. I know how to, I know enough to be dangerous. And even within my own podcast that you're graciously joining now, I can't wait to take it to another level. We did that this past fall with our guests and hit record highs. So I'm just really focused on creating, and it brings me the most joy, to get my hands dirty and to really be involved in it. So whether it's on the personal side or professional side, I'm going to create, and it's going to be maybe not in volume, maybe just super specific, maybe not, I don't know, but I know the first few things I'm attacking are going to be special in my eyes, and then we'll see if they're received well. I don't know. That's awesome. I love that. Creating. Nothing more powerful than creating. Yeah, I don't think I ever thought of it like that. It was always churning. I was always just kind of the young guy, I was just going to go. And now I'm like, oh, no, I'm purposeful. Because, and I didn't realize this, when you're with someone, you're elevated. Amy elevates me. My life elevates because of this relationship. And I was always the guy what do you mean? I'm good. I'm elevated, man. I meditate. I go to yoga class. I'm elevated. My name's Yogi. But you realize how other people, your community, enrich your life. And it's so much better when you share it. And even in collaboration, I have another friend who Ken Black, guy who ran innovation at Nike for 25 years. And he said, hey, if you think of yourself as a creative and as a business, you got to hire people. This last year, I had three interns. I had 3 people that, I brought onto my team and paid and felt great about it. And my stuff, it elevated. You can't do it alone. So I think in creativity, it's not just sitting in a coffee shop on your sketch pad. That's where it begins. And then you bring in pieces to that puzzle. And that's the team and the coach in me that I love. And now here we are, firmly committed to that. So that's where I'm at right now. Why don't people create? I think you're afraid, right? Your friend Erwin McManus, a guy I've gotten a chance to know, he wrote the book The Artist and Soul, and it's about reminding yourself you're an artist. I think we forget that we can create. I've gone to parties where you got to go and you get your slab of canvas and you have to paint something. I remember going late on purpose. I was like, I'll miss the painting. And I got there and they're like, no, you're going to paint. You're the last guy to do it, but you're still going to do it. And it was so nerve-wracking and anxious, anxiety-ridden. I've been painting since 4th grade, and my art teacher told me I was bad and I didn't want to paint anything. And then I did, and I had the most fun I've ever had. And who knows if it was good, bad, and different, but I created. And I think we're meant to do that. When you look at kids, when you look at the soul of somebody at the beach when they're creating with sand, or creating with the box, not the toy, around the holidays. And I think we lose that along the way. And I'm not good enough to create. I shouldn't create. What am I going to create? Versus you got a mind, man. What do you want to create? It could be a shirt. It could be a cookie. It could be a book. It could be a podcast. It could be a family. It could be craftsmanship. Who gives a rip? Right. But you got to create something because you're breathing. We're creating an existence. We're either creating a positive aura or a negative aura. We're creating a philosophy, the way we walk, the way we talk, how we look somebody in the eye if we don't. We're always creating. It's, to me, do you want to embrace that you're a creative, you're an artist, and don't judge yourself against the Instagram artists of the world, because that's not really even reality anyway to me. Brilliant. I love asking you the questions, by the way. Yeah. We got to turn this back. Because I think people listen to your podcast and they listen to you interview people, but I've interviewed you and I know how brilliant you are. So it's really great for other people to hear your own insights on your podcast, because they're brilliant. And, I am happiest when I'm creating. Yeah. When I'm creating, that's when I'm writing a book. And so I have 2 more coming, so there'll be 18 coming out. But I wrote over the holidays, and it was just, I realized that's when I'm happiest, when I'm sitting there writing. It's not marketing a book. It's not getting on social media. It's sitting there and creating the world and the story and sharing the lessons. That's when I'm happiest, when I'm creating. And I also worked on a training program, the Power of Positive Leadership training program we're doing. And
I created one for student athletes. I am so fired up for this for student athletes because they need to learn how to be leaders.
Yeah.
They come to school and no one ever teaches them how to be a leader, right? Even coaches won't teach them necessarily how to be a leader a lot of times. And so they may work with the captains, but I believe every student athlete is a leader with the potential to change the world and influence, more importantly, one person around them, and that makes them a leader. So I've been working on creating this program. Okay, what do I want to say to a student athlete? What difference do I want to make, and how do I want to help them be a leader based on these principles? So I created that program over the holidays. And I was fired. I was alive every day. I was getting up in the morning because I'm on usually East Coast time, but now I'm on California time, so I'm getting up at 6 in the morning. My family's not getting up till 8 or 9. And every morning I would just go there and start working on it. And I just loved it. And that's when I was happiest.
Wow. Okay, so let's lean into that, if you don't mind, for a little bit. Creativity for you. You just eloquently described, like, when you're at your best is when you're in the act of. And one of my favorite phrases, and again, I stole it from Ken, form versus essence. So the form is the book. 16 books, all have crushed it. Here come 2 more. That's that. But the essence is the 6 in the morning. When did it become real for you that, like, yeah, that's the thing that lights me up? Because the first couple of books probably just did because the first couple of books and they're selling and it's cool, but you're in this thing now. Like, you're officially an author, I think. Yeah. 16 books published, 2 more on the way. A couple children's books, by the way. Highly recommend those for kids. But did you have a moment there where you were like, my essence is I'm a storyteller. I'm a creator.
It was the first book. It was the energy bus. I mean, it really was sitting there with the energy bus and having this idea and writing a story for the first time. That's when I felt most alive. I never felt more alive than sitting up in my home office every day and writing this book and walking and praying and getting ideas and coming back and adding to it and then finishing this book. Never felt more alive. So I think in that moment, I knew I was a creative. I didn't know if I was a good creative. I didn't know if people were going to like this book. I had no idea it was going to be received. It's now gone on to sell, over a few million copies around the world and growing even more now. It's like continues to exponentially grow. So it's pretty cool to look back at that guy who was sitting on that, in that home office, on that chair, writing that book by himself every day to now create this. I was walking with my daughter and, introducing her to some influential people. And I said, Jade, isn't this amazing? Like, the reason why you got to meet them is because they liked my books. And so then they wanted to connect with me and we became friends as a result of that. Now, good thing that the book represents, of course, the essence, not the form, the essence of who I am. So, but then meeting those people, I go, that's because I wrote something. Yeah. They read something I wrote, and that's why. If it's interesting when you really think about it, I wrote something that people read. It started from within me, and then that creates the experience that we now have in this life. And I said, that's how it always works, though. It doesn't just work that way for me. You create inside out. So the essence of who you are and what you create from the inside, people then receive, and that manifests itself into a world that you experience on the outside. So it always starts, on the inside. So I thought I was a creative in that moment when I first wrote that book. Again, I didn't know if it was a good creative. To this day, I don't even know if I'm a good creative. I just know I'm able to take these concepts and share them and write them in a way that people could hopefully connect with.
Well, I think they have, we all have. There's not a week goes by where I go to a college campus where they bring up Jon Gordon, whether it's a graduate assistant, young coach, an assistant, the head coach, athletic director. I mean, Chris Peterson's rocking the Stay Positive t-shirt in his press conference after they lose a game. I mean, there's not a better illustration.
That was fun to see. That was so cool. So rewarding, so meaningful to see that. It was really,
he's a one percenter. So I want to push you on expand, though. Yeah. Your books have been read by over millions of people. Your social media continues to explode. Your newsletter is awesome. Where are you expanded to? Like, because I think when people hear the word Jon, like, bro, you're already huge, man. Like, you need to expand even more. Like, take me into the essence of the word when it hits you.
Expand, to me, it means to reach more people with the message. It's not about growing my platform, but about reaching more people with the message. So that, to me, it's share the message with more people. Yeah. And so we had these 20 tips for a positive new year. And I had a guy email me and say, yo, these are like the same ones as last year. And usually I change them every year. 1 or 2 usually, but they're mostly the same. But this year I didn't change them at all, because as I read through them, I'm like, there's nothing I would add really to this year. Nothing came to me to change and add. And I said to him, listen, you may think it's old to you, but there are thousands of people that read this for the first time right now. And there are millions of people that haven't read The Energy Bus, even though it's been translated in Japanese and Chinese and, Russian and all these different languages. Millions of people haven't read it. Millions of people have not read my books. Millions of people have never heard of me. And so to me, it's about sharing this message with more and more people and reaching more people with it. So it's taking I think this is a good lesson for anyone who wants to build something. We often create something and then we go on to create something else, create something else, create something else. Create something that's meaningful, that's valuable, that can have an impact, and try to get that one thing to reach more people. So go deep, then go wide. Focus on your core, then expand the core. And too many people are always moving on to the next thing without ever giving that first thing attention, because The Energy Bus didn't become a bestseller for 5 years. Wow. Right. So I learned that lesson early on. Like, I was just out there sharing the message, and I wasn't focusing on bestseller status, and I still never do with the books. No, create something that you want to change the world with, and then try to get that in front to as many people as possible. Like, you're create your word create. I'm going to create, you're going to create something meaningful. I know it. And it's going to go out and reach more and more people. And maybe not right away at first, but over time we'll reach more and more and more people. Yeah. So to me, that expand means to expand my influence to reach more people, to expand the opportunity to impact more people. It has to be about the impact. I thought about this the other day. If you're given a gift, it's never for yourself. If it's for yourself, how sad would that be? The gift you've been given is always for you to share it. So you're given a gift so that you can be a gift to others. Yeah. You're being a blessing. You're being blessed to be a blessing for others. And so you're always given these gifts, I think, to share it. If you're not sharing it, and I think so many people are scared to create, they're scared to give, they're scared to put themselves out there because they're focused on themselves and what people will think of them. Don't focus on that. Focus on what you want to give to people and the difference you want to make, and let that purpose be greater than your challenges. So people are afraid of public speaking, which I was terrified of. Don't focus on the audience, right? Focus on that you have an obligation to share something that can benefit their life. And if you don't share that one thing that you know you need to share, then that person listening can't benefit from it. Like, you have an obligation to do this podcast because the guests you have on are going to make an impact. And we learn one thing from each person that's on, at least one thing. And from that, we're benefiting people's lives.
Yeah. I believe there's a big responsibility when you get a mic. And I think often it isn't taken that way. I call out a lot of people in the college football world for that, of your job is to celebrate the game and coach the viewer. That's what I believe your job is. And I believe that's my job, versus my job is to pile on and play in the sandbox. Like, we don't serve Twitter, right? Like, that's the lowest common denominator of fan in sport. We serve the ball. Without the ball, you don't exist. You don't have a job. You don't have a platform. You don't have a mic. I don't have this like, without the core, right? Or without your story, you don't have a book, right? It's not as though your publishing company said, "Hey, John, we met you walking on the beach in Florida. Hey, we want you to, here's a 10-book deal." Like that, that's not how it works. Like, it came from within. I think that's really cool, because as you grow or as you expand, I'd be curious if you felt this ever. Do you feel it? Did you feel at times as you grew and your book's going to Japanese? Right. Oh boy, now I'm getting judged, and now it's larger and larger and larger. Or did you always go back to the guy who was writing in his office and the joy of that? And if so, how did you deal with the tension if it occurred? When I wrote The Carpenter, I had so much fear that I couldn't write. So I was struggling. I never had writer's block before, so I think The Carpenter might have been my 8th or 9th book, but I couldn't write because people were loving Training Camp, loving Energy Bus. I was getting so much feedback from that. As I started to write The Carpenter, I'm thinking, oh, they're going to think my best work is behind me. I'm going to create a piece of junk. I was so full of fear. People think you have less fear when you have success. You actually have more fear because you have more to lose. LeBron James going into a big game has a lot of fear, I guarantee it, because his legacy's on the line, doesn't want to lose what he has. So I'm convinced that in those moments, what I realized is you have to bring love to it instead of fear, because love casts out fear. Love is more powerful than fear. So what happened was, I woke up one morning with this shift, an awakening, an enlightenment. It was incredible. That said, I just had to focus on the love I have of writing, that moment of how I felt when I was writing The Energy Bus, get back to the love of writing, the love for the reader, write something that can impact their life.
and the love of just the overall process and journey. And all of a sudden, boom, I wrote the book in like 2.5 weeks of The Carpenter. 2.5 total. After that, it just flowed. And then I made that as part of the story where Michael, the main character, is full of fear. And he realized that to build his business with greatness, he has to build it with love. Because you'll never build anything great without fear, with fear. Greatness is built with love.
Yeah.
And it's all about love. And I know you're all about love. So to me, that's what I had to overcome. So that was the only time I ever really had to overcome that. And ever since then, it's been just focusing on the love. And even with speaking, when I get up there, it's worrying about people judging you and your talk and what happens if I don't have it today. Every speech is like game day. Do you admit that?
Oh, yeah.
Because you give a lot of talks too. Yeah. I mean, you're an incredible speaker. So you get up there, it's like game day, but it's like you wonder if you have it today. There's always the fear that maybe today is the day that I don't have it. There's that little thing that I think Tom Brady has it, Drew Brees has it, the best have that little fear that somehow continues to push them towards greatness. So for me, it's that little fear that says, all right, maybe I don't have it today. Erwin McManus and I were at the Clippers game the other night, and he gave me some of the best advice I ever heard. It was incredible. I said, sometimes when I look at the audience, I forget what I want to say because I'm looking at the audience, I get distracted. I said, does that happen to you? He goes, no, when I look at the audience, because I actually feel more connected. I'm looking at them and I'm thinking about just speaking into them. And he said, good speakers want their audience to feel something. They try to make them feel something. Great speakers feel something, and they invite the audience to participate in that feeling with them. Boom. Oh. Is that not powerful? Like that changed my going forward in 2019, every talk I give, it's going to be about the feeling. Even with this podcast, I'm like, as we sat down, I thought about, don't just talk. What feeling do you want to share with the audience, and what are you feeling, and what do you want to share, and feel that. And I think sometimes we're afraid to feel. My brother says, growing up in our Jewish Italian family, that we eat our feelings. we don't deal with them. We don't express them. You have stuff that, growing up, single mom before she met my dad. My father left when I was a year old. I think you have this journey of your life where you're afraid to feel, where you face rejection and adversity and challenges, and you can become hardened in your life. And so sometimes it's not, I may not feel it. And I have to get back to feeling it and then sharing that feeling. Mm-hmm. And as a speaker, I know I'll be more powerful doing that. And there are moments in my talks when I look back where where you can see I'm just in the flow and I'm just feeling it. Yeah. And those are the best moments. The talks where you're just trying to be, sharing something, an idea or a thought, but it's not a feeling, not as powerful.
Wow. All right. So as you enter the year of expansion for you, do you feel more when you are writing? And by feel, I say, do you feel the most vulnerable when you're writing, when you're husband/father, or speaker? Most vulnerable, I think, is speaking. Because you're on stage and it's that live interaction with people. Yeah, I'm judged every day by my kids, so that's easy. Yeah, that's easy. Happens. Whatever, Dad. They're the ones that keep me grounded. I come home, they could care less what I have to say. They give me a hard time all the time. They will make fun of my videos. Look at Dad, and they're not big fans. So they love me, of course. I'm their dad, but they're definitely not where they give me any voice of encouragement and support. And so we have fun with that. But my dad, my son one day said, Dad, you don't really motivate me. Your videos don't motivate me. I go, well, they're not meant for you, clearly. I go, clearly they're clean your room. Yeah, they're clearly not meant for you. But he's motivated by Inky Johnson and others, so that's okay. Right. You know what? Younger speakers, maybe who you connect with, I don't know. But I go, but it's funny, but some of his teammates, he's a Clemson tennis player. Some of his teammates listen to my stuff and love my stuff. And so they're like, hey, that was awesome what your dad said. And my son's like, what? What are you talking about? I work with enough college athletes. I know it connects, right? But he's your son. So I think I'm not vulnerable when I'm home. No, I'm just, we're in it. I'm not vulnerable really when I'm writing because I think it's just me and the page. It's really when I'm on stage speaking. Yeah, that's cool. And that's where I have to be more vulnerable and not worrying about what people think, but just be vulnerable in the essence of the feeling of sharing the feeling and the message. Sometimes you don't, if I give a story, you try not to cry, but would it be so bad to cry if you cried in that moment? Would that be so bad? Yeah. That's so good. Okay, expansion. Before we let you go.
Yeah.
You work with a lot of teams. LA Rams, you spoke with Sean McVay. You're rocking the shirt now. Clemson, right? By the time this airs, the national championship game would have already happened.
Yep.
Dabo Swinney has appeared in multiple now. You've worked with them.
Washington.
Yeah, UW, Chris Peterson. I mean, those are some of the...
You made the introduction. Thank you for that.
Well, of course, man. I mean, let's introduce you as many as possible. Right? You got to share. That being said, I'm curious about Clemson specifically. You know, a lot of people listening here are college football fans. What has allowed him? Because I look at it, and this was the receiver coach, interim head coach, and now, other than Saban and Chris Peterson, like winning percentage wise, or Urban's gone, he's 1%er. And everyone I talk to, from his peers like David Shaw, just rave about him. How have you seen he and that program expand, and how have you tried to pour into it when you're around them?
Right. Well, I always pour into it every year, so that's something I just love. And it started in 2011 when they were at training camp as a team, and Dabo and I didn't even know each other, but he used those principles of what the best do better, and it became a core for their season. And then the following year, we did the Energy Bus. 2012 was the first year I actually worked with the team. So every year it's been a new message. They have love, serving, care as a big theme of what they do now. It's on their walls, so love, serving, care. So every year I'm just trying to share messages, and, you know, going in this year, okay, what do they need? What's the message that needs to be shared? And, you know, this year it was the eye of the tiger. It was so funny because Dabo made shirts that said eye of the tiger and didn't even know that I was coming in going to share that message.
Crazy.
Yeah, because I saw against Alabama last year, Alabama was hungrier in that semi-final game.
Yeah.
They were hungrier. I said, no one should ever outwork you. No one should ever be hungrier than you. The year before, you had the eye of the tiger. This year, Alabama had it, right? So now this year, we got to have the eye of the tiger. So, you know, it's fun. Before every game, I text Dabo just the eye and a tiger symbols, eye, tiger. And then he always texts back, eye, tiger, with a strength arm and a Clemson love sign. So it's awesome. And so we text back in symbols, but eye of the tiger. And so I just always pour in that way into the players and just try to invest in them and just share, you know, messages and principles that will help them for the year. And again, but it's not me. I mean, what I know is the success of this program is defined by this leader, Dabo Swinney, who is one of the most incredible leaders I've ever met. I think he's one of the best leaders on the planet, to be honest, because I've seen what he has done, how he's expanded it. You asked how. His belief, his optimism, his refusal to just even allow negativity in or to allow it to sabotage anything that they do. He just does not give it energy and attention. He is all about faith and belief. He's a strong man of faith. It's a big part of what he does. But it's his ability to share his feelings with others in a very authentic, transparent, and loving way. His players know that he loves them. They know it. They feel it. And he does. And when you meet him, he's just so real. He is the realest deal that there is. You know, everyone says, is that what the real deal? The realest deal that he is. And so I've never met someone who you just gravitate towards and like immediately, because he's real, he's honest, he's transparent, he's authentic, he is who he is, he's not afraid to share who he is, and he's got, you know, a gift for connecting with others. So I think he's able to expand by who he is, but he's also very intentional. He knows the kind of program he wants to build. Very process driven, very process and detail driven. If you're not on it, he's all over you. If you're not working as hard as you can, he's all over you. He's got the right combination of love and accountability, and that is the key to great leadership. Love and accountability. The best leaders lead with the combination of both. In their right combination, because some guys may have a little bit more accountability than love. Some might have more love and accountability, but you have to have both. But everyone has their own formula, because it depends on your style, your personality. You can get away with a little bit more maybe if you're a likable person, so you can be maybe even a little tougher if you're more likable. Again, everyone has their own mix. But in his combination of love and accountability, he drives them to be their best, and he gets the most out of them, but he does it with the drive towards excellence, but then the love that they feel and the relationship that makes them even stronger. So he'll often say a lot of teams have a process, but we have relationships that drive the process. And he'll recruit a kid and say, and this is truth, he'll go, hey, no, you're not going to have a starting spot if you come here. Like, we're not promising you anything. Like, so anyone who's doing that, if you want to go there, then you go there. But if you want to come here and earn it, then you come here and earn it. If you think you can earn it, we want that. You do that. but no one's going to love you like we do.
Oh, I love that. That's strong.
Isn't that cool? Like, so if the kid says I'm going somewhere else because they promised me a starting position, you probably don't want that kid, because you want the kid who believes that they can earn that spot and wants to earn that spot.
Yeah.
That's who I want on my team.
That's exactly how we had it at SC when it was rolling. Okay, so last thing.
Oh, can we talk about Pete Carroll for a second?
Yeah, I'd love to, yeah.
I thought it was one of the greatest coaching jobs I've ever seen this year. I mean, he took this team that everyone said was a team that was going to have to be developed a lot. It's like an interim team, basically, and took them to the playoffs. And we don't even know how the season's going to go yet. I mean, the playoffs can go amazing, but what he's done with that team and the success they've had just shows how great of a coach he is. I think... Am I right? I mean, I think it's one of the great coaching jobs that I've seen.
Yeah, I think over the last 20 years, like, put him up against anybody, right? What he did in college, what he's done in the NFL, how he's retooled his roster. You know, in college, he got a bunch of 5 stars to be able to coexist and compete every day, like you referenced with Coach Dabo Swinney.
Yeah.
And in the NFL, he built a roster from zero. They're the worst team in the NFC West,
yep,
to back-to-back Super Bowls, to, oh my God, is it over, to now look at it. And at the core of it, at the core of Coach Carroll, and he talks about it in his book, Win Forever, is he's just going to care about people. Like that's it. Like, and whether it's the lowest assistant, the chef, the guy working security, or Russell Wilson, like, he's going to prove that he cares, and he's going to prove to you that he's going to do everything he can to get you to tap into and hopefully maximize your potential. And that's what it's built on. It is built on that. And you can look at all the books, whether it's books that you've written, The Culture Code, all these great books around leadership. Pete has been doing it, yep, right? Whether it was Abraham Maslow or whether it was Grit and Angela Duckworth, like, he's been doing it. And to me, he is a thought leader. He is the 1%. And clearly, I'm biased, but he's so special, and he's so undervalued as a coach.
Totally.
Because of all the other stuff, because of the inner city, because of the nonprofits, because of his personality, because of the big shoes and the gum and the fun and the fist pumps and the throwing the football on his birthday, as many yards as he is, his age. People don't talk about the savant he is as a coach. And I never get more frustrated when he doesn't win Coach of the Year. And he doesn't give a rip about that, but he doesn't get, to me, the adulation and celebration he has earned as a coach. I think he's a Hall of Famer. He already is in college. We'll see what happens in the NFL.
I love it.
Okay, so expands your word. Before we let you go, as a friend, somebody who loves you, how can I help you? How can I support, assist, lean on, challenge, whatever around your word?
Just be the great friend you are. That's it. I mean, you're a great friend, and being around great people expand your capacity to do more, expand you as a person, and help you grow as a person. You've already done that. Just our conversations have made me better. So just doing that is all I need.
Okay, well, we can't wait for the next 2 books to come out. Make sure everybody follows Jon. What's the best place to go? Because you got a lot of cool things happening. JonGordon.com, JonGordon.com, and love Twitter, Instagram at JonGordon11. JonGordon11 for both of those. I love it. All right, Jon. I appreciate you, man. You know how we end this podcast the same way every time. The only limits that we have in life are the ones we set ourselves. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Peace.